It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the Board of Health meeting to order. Is anyone recording this meeting besides LakeCAM? I see no one.
You see the date?
Oh, yeah, the Board of Health meeting for Wednesday, August 17th, 2022 is to order. And the first item on the agenda is 29 Central Ave, discuss removal of seasonal deed restriction. Do we have anyone here for this? No. Just turn over to Ed to discuss this one.
So in 29 Central, they have, they just had a Title V inspection done on their septic system. It's a septic tank, D-box, and concrete chambers. They have a seasonal, it's called a 2-bedroom seasonal home with no increase in flow. But once they went to year-round water, now it's no longer seasonal. We still need a deed restriction for a 2-bedroom home with no increase in flow, but there's no longer a need for the seasonal. So they're requesting to remove the seasonal part from the deed.
Okay. Hey, this doesn't have anything to do with this one tonight, but we did it at our last meeting and I've been thinking about it ever since. When we're saying you can put a tight tank in and remove that, do we have language in there that says that we're taking the seasonal restriction off only while it's hooked up to a tight tank, so people can't come back in 5 years and say, well, I got a year-round house now and I found a place at Perks and I need 50 variances, but I can put a field in?
If you have a tight tank, there's no restriction from putting a field in. That was more of a choice in most things. You chose not to come before the board and ask for the 50 variances or whatever. But I know in the past that there was a seasonal restriction, but now the only seasonal is due to water. If you have water 6 months a year, it's a seasonal home.
Yeah.
Like I said, tight tank really has no effect on whether it being seasonal or not anymore. So yeah, if you have a tight tank, you can go for a bottomless sand filter or something like that. There's no restriction on you from doing that. There's no guarantee you'll get it, but like I said, you are allowed to do it. What often comes up with a tight tank is like, why am I stuck with a 2-bedroom? If it's a tight tank, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And we always say, well, if you ever choose to get rid of the tight tank in the future, that is why you'll stick with a 2-bedroom. That makes sense?
That's not, you know what I was saying, don't you? If we're taking the deed restriction off for seasonal, right? Because before they couldn't do it and they can't do it and they had a restriction, now we're gonna let them take it off. And this isn't affecting if anyone's here for tonight, but then they could come, right? Then they could just come back and say.
Yeah, I think they always could come back, like Ed had said, I believe. I don't think, unless it's so close that they physically couldn't put in a real system, but I don't think there's any reason why they couldn't. There's nothing in our language, I don't believe, that allows them not to.
Yeah, no, there's nothing there. Like I said, you can always try, and it's up to you to approve whether it is. Like I said, in many situations, you probably can't even get a bottomless sand filter in there. Some of them are so tight, but you can always try. There's nothing legally restricting you from trying. The only restriction would be that your decision making whether that's safe for other neighbors, you know.
Right, if it's in zone A or.
I think some of them, they may have had no choice but the tight tank, right? But some they may have more choice, they may have more stuff, and maybe where they keep it limited bedrooms, they may still be able to get a sand filter in there or something like that.
So we might see some of these coming back to us now, they're going to year round, and they might not want a tight tank.
Sorry.
Right.
They might actually want to come back and, like the one was at our last meeting, there was a tight tank, and they came and wanted to put a system in.
And in that one, they probably, that was a larger lot, they probably.
They could have all.
Yeah.
And we approved it.
Well, the other thing though too is like when they came for the tight tank, they also at that same time could have come for a full system, right? And they decided not to, right?
But we wouldn't have taken the deed restriction wasn't based on the septic system. They had a seasonal deed restriction, not because of the septic system.
Right.
Some did, some didn't.
Yeah.
It depends. Some seasonal deed restrictions were in Clark Shores because of water.
Yeah.
Other seasonal deed restrictions, like in Lakeside Ave, that were just simply due to tight tanks.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with water. Those people have a well. So they had year-round water, but the deed restriction for the last one that came through, that was simply because it was a tight tank. It wasn't because of water.
Okay.
And that was at the time when the tight tanks weren't allowed for year round.
Yeah,
Now that's changed. So now they're allowed for year round.
I was just checking.
Hey, do you guys have any comment on this?
And then was it Title V down on, you said?
Yeah, just recently, but probably
So
last
we had
week.
Title V, the water, it's just tied into.
Yeah, so there was no water analysis
No
for
water
the Title V
analysis.
inspection because they're tied into Collector Rose water. But the Title V inspection passed.
All right,
So-
I'll make a motion, we approve, their request to remove the seasonal deed restriction, but leave the no crease and flow and 2-bedroom deed restriction on it.
Second?
Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda is 19 North Precinct Street. Meet with the Zenith Consulting Engineers to discuss requested local upgrade approvals. Turn it over to Jamie.
Good evening, Jamie Bissonnette, Zenith Consulting Engineers. So we have a septic system repair in front of you tonight. I believe we're here because we're asking for a 1-foot reduction to groundwater. This site is really the best place to put it. It's towards the front, away from the wetlands the best we can. I don't know if you have any questions. Realistically, I think this is pretty simple. If we didn't ask for the reduction of groundwater, we would have needed a pump. So obviously, we're asking for this based on grading and cost savings from going from the 5 to 4.
Ed had some issues with it.
Okay.
For location, I definitely agree with Jamie. It is the best location. It really is the only location there. But my only question was, and I understand why you're going for the 1-foot reduction, but my only question was where the groundwater actually is. I kind of, from your survey, it kind of shows a wetland along the 96-foot contour, both to the north and the south. And I think you guys estimated at 95, and I was just wondering why the difference.
So I didn't do the soil evaluation, but I did ask about it. Will said when you and him met on site, you kind of talked about, because you didn't see anything in the hole. And so it was calling out, you guys looked at the wetlands and we're going to call it in that area. He picked the area that I think he was referencing with you on that, for that water table elevation. So.
Yeah, it was true. It's coarse sand's often tough to see modeling, and we only did one hole. So I said, I asked him to please locate the wetland flags, and then we would use the elevation of the wetland flags, not so much one in particular.
Sure.
Rather more or less an average.
Yep.
And that's why I was kind of surprised to see that it was a little lower than what the average would be.
Gotcha, yeah. I can't speak exactly to that because I didn't know to ask him exactly why he chose that elevation. I don't, myself, thinking about it, wetlands typically 12 to 18 inches, usually you have water table. It can be at grade, but when you see the 96s, 95s, 94s that kind of go through the wetlands there, I think we're reasonably safe, unless there is a real concern on that. I can find out. We could do a conditional approval, I guess, and I can get you an answer on that, if that's all right with the board.
Yeah, because if it's off a foot, then you need 2 feet.
Yeah, exactly. If it's off a foot, we wouldn't ask for a 2-foot. Yeah, we would put in a pump.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Because I don't think the board gives 2-foot really on infiltrator systems.
Well, that was it. Like I said, if it was just a 1 foot going from a 5 to 4, I mean, that's something the board has
Yes.
approved in the past pretty frequently, but with the 1 foot difference there plus the 1 foot there, that you're really going for a 2-foot reduction, which really shouldn't be approved at a Board of Health meeting.
Yeah, so I mean, my recommendation would be I can get Will in touch with you tomorrow. You and him can talk, because I wasn't on site when the soil eval was done. You and him can kind of walk through the rationale. If you're okay with it, then we're good. If not, then we'll put a pump in and lift it a foot. Or whatever you and him determine, if the board's okay with that. We'd still ask for the 1-foot separation. We would just have to lift the field up a foot to still meet that.
Yeah,
1
I'm
foot.
fine with the location and everything else. That was my only question.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we're willing to work with Ed to make it so it happens.
Yeah, and I looked at the, all your pitch. I mean, you're close to getting, you need 9/10. I mean,
Exactly.
you could probably get 7. You had 4% to the tank.
Yep.
You called out 0.5% coming out, but I think it's 5% from house to tank. You got 5/10 there.
Yep, I did
6.05.
the math and worked it back too. We just couldn't
So-
make it by like 2/10, I think
Yes,
it was.
you're missing it by 2/10.
And yeah, and when you're at 2/10, you might as well just let the slopes work. But we might be able to flatten it out and get Ed to be comfortable with us flattening those to 1% and avoid a pump.
Yeah, like I said, 2/10 definitely, it's tough to determine groundwater from 2/10,
Yeah,
especially with the
exactly.
wetland elevation, I understand that. But the fact that it was a full foot was
Yeah.
kind of my concern.
Yeah, so maybe we can take and again, if we can lift and do minimum slopes and possibly pick that up another 5 or 6 inches, and maybe that's something that Ed would be comfortable with when Will talks to him tomorrow. I mean, again, we'll make Ed comfortable.
You okay with that, Ed? If
Yeah,
you do
sure.
a site visit and say this is, because, I mean, we're just looking at numbers on a plan and contour lines. So like you said, if that's how we're calling a
Exactly,
water
yeah.
table, it's
Yeah.
really tough.
Oh, definitely.
It is tough, but it's the fact that it's on both the north and
Right.
south. I mean, it's one thing if and sometimes you do have a discrepancy from the north and the south,
Yep.
like that. But when both of those are pretty consistent, especially in a coarse sand, because, if it's a tighter soil, you do get a slope towards a wetland. But with a coarse sand, you do often see it very, often,
flat.
like you said, you can see the wetland and you can see there. And time after time on a plan, it's at the elevation of a wetland with a coarse sand. So it is, I do see it pretty frequently in the things, because whenever I see it, like, because we go by modeling, but like I always check it with the wetland on site, and you'd be surprised how consistent it can be.
Yeah, I agree, especially in sands. If you're in tills, like you said, it slopes, but sands, it's pretty level. Like, we find it generally within a foot.
And then doing that other way to determine the water table if you can't find modeling, which I don't know if we ever really do.
It picked
is
this
just-
thing up several feet out of the
Because that's
ground.
just makes it wacky, right? It just,
It can,
Frimpter.
The
yeah,
Frimpter.
Frimpter can really throw things.
Plus, we didn't find any water. Usually with Frimpter,
Exactly.
you want to find the water and then make your adjustments based on where it was. So you could dig another hole going
Yeah.
deeper, but like I
but there
said,
was no water even in the
Yeah.
hole.
No, and I think Ed's logic here is sound. We're not arguing that by any stretch. It's just him and Will being, agreeing on the elevation where they're both happy. And then we'll do the 4.1 feet separation from there, or 4 feet, whatever it needs to be.
Okay.
So,
And then if it doesn't work and you still go to a pump, you'll still keep that separation?
yeah, we'd
Is
still
that-
ask
you'll have
for
a
it.
bigger mound in the front? Or
Well, yeah,
pumping it?
So I looked at the grades in the front of the house, and I mean, we're pretty close to the front. You have the steps. We'd prefer to not have the mound because it's gonna almost want to shed water back towards the house and create a little bit of a berm. So we'd prefer not to. Would still like to keep the 4 foot reduction, the 1 foot reduction for 4 feet.
Even if we have to?
Yeah, I mean, picking it up some inches, we can make that work. If I have to pick it up a foot, I think we're gonna have to lift the elevation there. You agree, Ed?
yeah, you'll definitely have to raise the system.
Yeah.
Whether you can, the only question there would be the steps. The rest of it, you got enough room there.
Yeah.
It would just be right by that walkway
Yeah,
right
the
there.
walkway itself would be the
Yeah.
tough part. Yep.
Right, but I mean, you could grade it or just put a 9-inch stepping stone or something like that would do it.
Along the edge of the walkway,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, because you're at 102 right at the walkway.
Mhm.
Your minimum is 101 over the system, .1. So if you go to 102.1, you're dead flat at the walkway.
Exactly. Yep.
I don't really know how to make a motion, because if we approve it with Ed checking it, but it doesn't work out, then we gotta start all over again. Cause then we close the hearing out.
Oh,
So is it better just to come back at the next one, or do you wanna try to have us do that?
oh no, we'll definitely make it work with that. I'm confident with that, even if we have to pick it up, what, 6 inches, 9 inches, or
Yeah.
even a foot.
I think what he's asking is he's asking you to approve the 1 foot reduction, which you can do.
Yeah.
And then myself and Will determine where the actual groundwater is. So that can be a separate issue. So we'll determine where the actual groundwater is, but you are allowed to do a 1 foot reduction.
So we can do the location, the 1 foot reduction, But that 1 foot isn't gonna be based on these numbers on this plan, they're gonna
Correct.
be based on what you guys
You're just
decide.
giving a 1 foot reduction.
Correct.
You're not giving it, you're not approving an elevation, you're approving a 1 foot reduction.
Okay.
And it'll be subject to Ed's review of the water, determining water table and issuing a new plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it would just be like a typical plan that I review, and sometimes I call up the engineer and we discuss the water table there as well.
Yep.
It's not that unusual.
It'll just be approving the
Yeah, just the 4 foot, you know,
5 to 4.
the 5 to 4. Yep, and I think we had a second one, was it for 2 holes to 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
I'm good with that.
Anyone else to speak on this one? Yeah.
Anyone else to speak on this?
You can make this one.
Yeah, I have, on number 2 there, you have a variance. You want to go from 10 feet to 5 feet?
Oh, you're talking Staple Shore Road?
Yes.
That's the next hearing. This one's for North Precinct Street.
I'm sorry.
That's okay?
It's okay.
You're next.
I can hardly hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So Jamie, on your next presentation, you should address that.
I will.
Okay.
All right, I make a motion to approve a 1 foot reduction to the water table from 5 feet to 4 feet. You want to go full 1 foot?
Yes,
Or
please.
4 foot. For 19 North Precinct Street. And the number of deep holes from 2 to 1. Requiring Ed to go out and determine the water table elevation with the engineer and have a new plan resubmitted if their elevation is different.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Next on the agenda, 147 Staple Shore Road. Meet with Zenith Consulting Engineers to discuss requested variances and local upgrade approvals. So you again, Jamie.
It's me. Good evening, Jamie Bissonette, Zenith Consulting Engineers for the record. Tonight, we have 147 Staple Shore Road. This is a septic repair for a 2-bedroom house. As with all of Staple Shore Road on the water, it's extremely tight. We have the pond on one side of the properties, and in this case, it is a double lot on both sides of the road. We have wetlands to the back. As we've done on a couple of lots down here, we've found that a bottomless sand filter with its reduced footprint and the advanced treatment, we felt that that would work best, maximize separation to abutting wells and resource areas, including the pond. As you probably saw, I believe there's 16 waivers, variances, local upgrades that are in this packet. Most of them are for separation to the pond itself, but they do include reductions in setback to property line, reductions in setback to well, reduction in setback to bordering vegetated wetland that borders a surface water supply, and inverts to groundwater where the tanks are. Part of our investigation out here was actually to determine where the actual well placement was as well. I know I've talked to Ed about this a little bit, but the well was shown on previous plans to be in front of the house. And what we found, we actually had Doug Mann from D&M Well Drilling go out. He found the well to actually be a point well in the basement or in the crawl space of the house. So we've updated the location. This is the best finding that we have on where the well is. Our metal detectors weren't picking up anything. And we were gonna bring in an excavator until Doug found the well. So that's great for not only ours, but any future septics that are gonna go in the neighborhood. As you know, the bottomless sand filter, it's very high level of treatment that goes on in the septic system process before it goes to the bottomless sand filter. Bottomless sand filter here is smaller than the one that we recently did on the other side of Staple Shore Road when you come in because of the 2 bedrooms itself. Similar soils, just one less bedroom, so the system's We have conservation next week, so we don't have conservation approval yet, but we did get a letter back from the endangered species because this is an exempt project, so they rendered it as not a take. And I guess I'm happy to entertain any questions that the board or abutters might have.
Is the road paved there?
Yes.
Okay. Will you have that pipe going across the road?
Yep.
And then it angles up halfway and comes over? Can you just shift that over onto the property so there's a nice clean cut going across the road instead of having a big wide trench?
I think that's
All
easy.
angled up and cut across the road for 'em?
I think that's easy enough to do. Yep.
Okay. That was mine. You know what I'm talking about, right?
That was mine too.
Just do a nice clean cut across the
Yeah, I
road and
wouldn't
down there.
use a 45 in the road. 'Cause,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one
Makes sense.
before zigzagged.
Yep.
I
So,
actually
yeah,
just drove
these-
down there and drove over it.
These ones where you see like 17 variances, I'm like, oh, it's gotta be that split lot down there, and I could stare at this for hours and I don't think I'm gonna make much more improvement to it at all, right?
It's tight. I mean, we try to balance out environmental, public health and environmental safety here. We try to get as far away from the pond as we can and wells. And in here, we're much further away from the wells than I thought we were gonna be, which is great. And we've pushed it as far away from the pond as we can. I do know that when you're looking at the bottomless sand filter, on the right-hand side, towards one of the abutters is this beautiful tree that's there. And that tree, based on where the septic's gonna have to go, has to be cut down. The roots are gonna just protrude into the available area for the system. And those roots are gonna be compromised and will be a problem.
Couple different pictures.
So,
Shows how close the neighbors.
regardless of in that area, how we slide that tree with the overcast and the limbs, that will, and that's based on talking, not just looking at it myself, but talking with some of the contractors that have looked at it. For a safety reason, they'll have to take that down. The reason that we placed it where we did, we're kind of juggling the wetland in the back and also the pond in the front and the wells, but we also have the driveway. So sliding it further down, we're asking, we always say 5 feet. I try to round it, down to a nearest number. But we have it 8 feet shown on the plan. The reason that we're not sliding it down a couple more feet is because it's going to impact the driveway itself. And as you know, cost is a consideration with Title V waivers. And so there's no environmental or health safety benefit from, that's lost with that 2 feet. So we feel good. We actually feel comfortable with all of our waiver requests. We think that they're all justified.
And there's 2 cesspools out there currently?
So I believe that the one that's on the side of the building is for the kitchen, and I believe that's a cesspool. And then there's one out that we believe that's in the front, and we also believe that that is a cesspool. We're told that nothing has been done out there in 45 plus years.
Where is this tree?
It's right on about the number 8 on the plan.
Across the street.
Oh, on this side?
Yes.
Oh, when it said
Yeah,
145, I
it was
was
the
looking.
garage for
It's like right
145.
here.
All right.
Did the same
It's
thing.
even in the center,
Okay.
Yeah, it's like right here is
Okay.
where, yep.
and it's a pretty good sized tree.
Oh, it's a beautiful tree.
I just
Yeah.
drove by
It's-
there.
It's big and it's good.
Okay. Oh, and a whole lot you can do though, unfortunately.
Ed, did you have anything on this one?
On the waivers, no, I thought they were all justified. I did have a question concerning the cesspool on the side there.
Yep.
Is there any way to replumb it so it comes out the front? Just because you have an old pipe going to a cesspool that's right near a well. I mean, if there's no other way, then do you plan to sleeve it as it leaves the building? Because just like I said, that well is right there, and any leakage, like I said, if it's an old Orangeburg or something like that, I mean, it's great to have a bottomless sand filter, but if it's leaking out of the pipe that close to the well, you're talking like 3-4 feet.
No, you're 100% right, and it is a point well, so
Yeah.
it's not like a bedrock well where you get that, I'm definitely open to that as far as the sleeving. I'm not sure about the replumbing because it's a crawl space, and I mean, it is a crawl space.
So
It's-
you can't even get under there.
You're not gonna get a mini, it's tight. It's tight. You can get down there with a small hand shovel and try to dig by hand if you're the right size. But yeah, it would be tough. I would prefer to do the sleeving. And I think anybody that's gonna put the system in is probably gonna dig that back because it's old pipe. They're gonna dig it back all the way to the house. And so if it's okay with the board putting it as on the conditions, or if they want me to update the plan tomorrow to bring it in with that note, I'm happy to.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
As long as it's noted, just so whoever has the plan. Would you want to write it on the installer's copy or want to just have it,
Yeah, I can just write a note on the installer's copy to be sleeved or something like that.
and then you'll have it and you'll make sure?
Boss spoke, I spoke. Do you have anything more to add to this, Derek?
I don't, I went through it too, and I went and looked at it. It's 100% improvement from the 2 cesspools in the groundwater. And the bottomless sand, I think, is probably the best system out there. I don't know if there's anything better right now.
Yeah.
And there's yearly inspections on the bottomless, or is it even
I
more?
believe there's twice a year.
Yeah, buy it.
Yep.
Twice a year, and that's forever.
Unless DEP changes the permit. Right now, the way it's set up is it's twice a year.
Always be inspected.
Yep.
Always make sure it's being, there's nothing leaking.
Yeah.
Looking in the tanks. So-
Yeah, it's a wastewater treatment operator. They have to have a certain grade wastewater treatment license. They go out and they sample it and inspect it and fill out a form and turn it in. DEP monitors the testing and the results because they'll lose their permit status if a certain number fall out of compliance.
So I think it's 100% upgrade, especially where it's already, I mean, they got a point well 20 feet from that system right now. So
Yeah.
it's definitely,
Right. So, sir, you want to speak to this?
My name is Rod Mantiel, I live at 147 145 Staples Shore Road.
Okay.
I understand the tree is gonna be ground down below.
That I don't know.
The guy that's gonna install this the other day, he was saying they were gonna grind it down.
Okay.
Whether they grind it down or take the stump out, those roots go down. And it's right next to the driveway, right
Oh,
next there.
definitely. It's right. And it's growing over the curbing a little bit even. Yeah.
And I want assurance that, when they take that out, that if anything happens to the driveway's gonna be fixed. That patched up the area and when it's all done, seal coat it. As far as the 5-foot variance, I'm inclined to think 10 foot, the way it is now, would be better. Can't you shift that over just a little bit? Because that's gonna have 2 walls going up my driveway, and I got no way to put the winter snow, and I don't wanna put it on top of the tank and everything, so it's an issue. So I'd like to have it in writing that, the driveway would be fixed, because I'm sure you're gonna have to go on there and do some work on there with the heavy equipment.
On your driveway?
Yeah,
I don't think so. I don't know why they would have to go on your driveway.
well, when you take the tree out, the roots go underneath my driveway, so it might not happen this year or next year, but it's gonna undermine my driveway, and everything's gonna rot, it's gonna be bad for it.
Okay.
So, I'd like to have assurance that it will be fixed if anything happens, and leave it at the 10-foot variance.
I would say I'm just the engineer. I can't make those assurances.
That's why I'm here.
I think it's 5 on that.
Yeah, I'm
improve 8 and
Well, you're
5.
talking about putting snow on that lawn area there in the wintertime?
Excuse me?
That's technically not your property, right?
yeah, no, that wouldn't be his property.
The snow, so that edge of driveway is pretty close to the property line, I'm guessing, right?
It's right on the property line.
Right.
Yeah,
You wanna
literally.
see the picture?
I have looked at it. So the driveway is right, the edge is the
Yeah,
property line,
right.
the edge of the driveway.
Right.
So technically you shouldn't be putting snow under the grass because it's not, technically not your
We
property.
have a big storm,
I understand.
you blow it on
I
one side or
understand.
the other side. I would
That's
feel
what I
bad.
mean.
I don't have a problem with having the system put in, but I feel bad about putting the snow on top of the system there, because I feel reluctant on putting it on mine. So, if you left it at 10 foot, I'd be happy with that.
Jamie, you're showing 8.
I'm showing 8. Yep.
Okay.
So again, the thought process was if we move it the 2 more feet down,
Yeah.
we're gonna impact the paved driveway that's there now on my client's lot.
Okay.
There wasn't a health or environmental benefit to having it the 2 feet further down, nor would it save the tree. But it will it'll most likely save the disturbance of the asphalt of the existing driveway. And again, like I was talking about, cost is a measure that Title V allows you to determine when it comes to local upgrades and variances.
So what's the 5 feet, the other side of the wall, not 8 feet?
Nope, what we do is, as you know, in construction, nothing's perfect. So if they come back in at 7 feet, 8 inches, I don't want to come back in for another variance. I've done that with you guys before, and you guys have made it very clear you don't like after the fact variances. So what we do is we round
Oh,
down.
I thought he was reading off the plan somewhere, 5 feet. So he's
No.
going off of here. You asked for 5 feet?
We did,
Because you
yep.
wanted 3 feet.
But we're
flow factor.
Yeah, we're showing 8 feet. We could probably do 7 feet, and be safe to give me whoever installs it a few inches extra, but we plan on it being 8 feet off that property line. And the wall will be closer than 8 feet. That's the sand filter is gonna be 8 feet. The wall will probably be closer to 5 or 6.
What's the wall block,
Yeah, we're proposing Keystone, I believe.
and how high is it gonna be?
It's gonna be less than 4 feet,
It's like 3.9.
3.9 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so the system is roughly 7 or 8, but by the time you bring the wall over, you're gonna be 5 or 6. The edge of the wall is gonna be
Yeah,
5 or 6 to
exactly.
the property line.
That's correct, yep. So there's about 5 or 6 feet between probably the face of the wall and the property line.
And then the other question is the stump. The trees cut.
Yeah, and that's something that I don't know what the client's gonna decide to do with their tree. As far as I'm concerned, they can rip out the roots underneath after they cut the tree and be fine with it and leave the stump for all my purposes are concerned, but I don't know what they'll wanna do aesthetically. So for you and I, as long as those roots are gone underneath and that tree's not gonna tip over
Yeah.
on somebody, I mean, I think we're okay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but as far as guaranteeing, like you said, for the neighbor, I don't know what,
Yeah,
I mean.
You guys
nothing-
you guys can make a decision on the distance, whether it's, 7 feet or 10 feet. But the part about the driveway giving assurance is you just can't do that.
Well, if
Yeah.
they damage it, they have to fix it.
Sure.
That's a given.
It's
That's
the
the time of
installer
installation.
who has responsibility to do that. so.
And I think, the other request you had about certain things that may be something you work out with the owner.
Well,
If there's anything happens, that's not something that we can decide or we can put in the plan. I think that's something you have to work out between the owner and yourself, I think, when it comes to the tree.
And I mean, my guess would be, I would take before pictures of the driveway. And then if the tree during construction, if the driveway gets ruined during construction, then I feel you have a legitimate claim. And I would talk to the people doing it, because we don't know who it's gonna be. They haven't picked somebody yet.
that's part of it. The other part of it is, once the tree is out,
Mhm.
say a year or two down from the road, my driveway sinks because of the roots.
Sure.
Cut,
Yep.
It'd be nice if the roots stayed there and didn't have a problem, but I'm sure it's nature's way,
Mhm.
And whatever damage is there, just patch that up and seal coat the driveway so it looks nice,
Yeah, I can't commit. I don't think they can either. That would have to be you with the owner or with the contractor. Because they approve the plan itself, but as the engineer, I don't have the ability to do anything like that. Neither does the board. They don't have that in their power that I'm aware
I thought I
of.
could get that resolved tonight with everything, so I have to call the contractor and all that stuff.
If they damage it, they have to fix it, but we can't
we can't put that into the plan approval, you know what I mean? Because we're not talking about a tree, we're talking about a septic system.
And did you just say that the tree might stay? If you just take the roots out, the tree might stay?
No, the stump might stay. The tree's definitely gotta get cut because those roots are gonna go way under the septic. It's a big tree. And if they just, anybody that would just cut those roots and leave that tree, they're looking for that tree to fall over in a storm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be, if I go back for an
No, that's
as-built.
what I was just gonna say. I thought
Yeah.
you said that that might all just stay there.
No, it can't. I don't see how it could.
Yeah.
So if you cut the tree and you grind the stump down flush, it gets rid of the stump.
Yep.
You still do have the roots under the main shot.
Sure.
I don't know of any,
Because if they pull the stump, they're gonna definitely
Oh, definitely.
crash the
they're gonna
driveway.
take 5 or 10 feet out of that.
Yep.
first
Oh,
driveway.
yeah, easy.
That stump is huge.
Yep. But every
Thing
year
to be
you gotta,
paving in-
every year you gotta
Driveway.
think those roots are getting bigger and going longer too. So I mean, I don't know if it's gonna do more harm or no harm. I have no idea.
As the tree grows.
Yeah, I've never, yeah.
Bob, I live on 43 State Street. Just from experience, when Ginger Bazzari put in her permit a number of years ago for, she also, as Jamie said, across the street, they're narrow lots across there. And my wife and I agreed to not argue on the 10-foot variance going to 5 feet. Bay State did the construction for the thing. It ended up that it's less than 3 feet from my property line. I had to chase them for over a month and a half and get an attorney to fix the mess they did on my property with their machine. So I know what Jamie said, it's not engineering, but it's tough in retrospect. I wish I had gotten something in writing from them that they were responsible for that. Once that system was in, and we found out that it was 2.5 feet versus 5 feet, there's nothing we could do about it.
Who was the engineer? There was, because if they submitted an as-built saying that it was only 2.5 feet and not
Well, I don't know
the
who
5
the
feet,
engineer was.
we wouldn't have signed up on it.
Rollins, I'm not sure.
How many,
It wasn't Jamie, I put that.
No, it wasn't me.
how long ago was that?
Collins, civil
Yeah,
engineer.
it was George Collins.
Was mine,
Yeah, that's what they're asking. How long ago was that?
2009.
2009.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be a question on the
It's not an
as-built.
engineering thing,
So-
and as Jamie said.
Well, no, that isn't engineering, because the engineer had to submit a as-built showing us that the
The
system
engineer
was in the right
stamped that plan, and
spot.
that's where, that was the 2.5 feet. So you could have, not just the contractor, you could have gone after the engineer on that.
Oh, yeah.
Because they said, they gave us something bad too.
And we wouldn't have signed off on
We
it.
wouldn't have signed off on it.
So they're showing the leaching field 5 feet
5 feet.
and they're showing the wall pretty much right on the line,
Yeah.
it looks like. I mean, like
And
right on the line.
I'm guessing it is 2.5, it could even be less than that.
The wall itself, it looks like the wall's on here.
It's a lot more width.
Yeah, yeah, about 22 inches.
Yeah, it looks tight on that plan, like right up against it.
You know, it's not that, I'm certainly for the system, I have no problem with
Yeah.
it at all. And I work with Jamie, I have no problem with his engineering, but I just want to express, you know, Joran's concerns because I had a similar situation. And I kind of in retrospect wish I had got something right. I finally got it resolved with Bay State, but it's not fair to chase people around for a month and a half, and particularly after you let them use your property, you know.
So for us, the bottomless sand filter itself, we won't, if it goes beyond what the variance is given for the distance, we won't sign off. If the sand's not okay, they will not get their certificate of compliance. They won't be able to backfill it legally. They won't be able to close it out because we won't. And the board won't sign off on it either. Ed will definitely catch it. The harsh truth is the block wall, they can put that if they wanted right against the property line. They can, but that's not what we're proposing. And we definitely are gonna keep that BSF. At the end of the day, it has to meet the variances they're given, or else we won't sign off on it and neither will Ed. So, it doesn't mean that they won't leave it there for a couple months if they put it in wrong, but you
Yeah.
very rarely find that happen.
Yeah.
So I guess we're back to the,
Well, like you said, the wall, somebody can put a landscape wall up right on the edge of their property, there's nothing anybody can do about it, but it's the roots that we're
Yeah, I mean, we can't make any assurances.
Yeah, we can't
We can't make assurances about the
We can't
driveway.
give them anything right.
And in 5 years down the road, a root doesn't rot and
So the question is not, do we want to, the 8 feet on the system, do we want to give them more room anyway? I mean, they which technically, what, 2-foot wall, which would give you 6 feet?
Yeah.
Do we want to
probably-
increase that at all? Is the question right now.
Right.
So they have,
but the tree's coming down either way.
It is.
right, but he's talking about more space for snow. I mean, do we? And like I said, I go back and forth because, I mean, I know it's nice to have the space with snow, but technically, you shouldn't be throwing the snow on someone else's property, you know what I mean? And if you're plowing, I don't know if I would want anyone plowing on their property
Over 2
either.
feet isn't gonna hurt nothing.
Jamie just says it's coming close to this, that.
Is that a curve from the driveway?
Is it in that?
On the abutters driveway, they have
He
they have
has a
granite
curb,
going
but
down.
on our drive, is that a curb,
I don't believe.
that driveway, or?
I think it's just, what you're gonna find is they're gonna set up and they're gonna dig, they're gonna undermine the edge of that asphalt. If we push it over the 2 feet, it's gonna be close. And I'm worried about them breaking the edge of the driveway and having to fix it. That was the whole thought process on it, was just trying to minimize the expense at this point. These systems are very expensive.
But at least if they break their own driveway, then, right, if they break his driveway.
Well, with the 8 feet off, I don't see how they would. It's just if if they pull the stump, then absolutely. If they break the driveway, they're liable. But cutting the tree and the stumps underneath their portion, I don't know how they would break his driveway.
And there's nowhere else to put it. I mean, there's
No.
it has to go
Yeah.
there.
The other thing is, when you think about logistics for the people using their own driveway too, they're literally gonna have a wall pinned right up against their driveway, which is not ideal at all. Granted, we only have maybe 2 feet now, 3 feet now on our side, so, I guess you'd have to think about whether a car might hit, a wall being that close or not, or a vehicle.
You could slide it 4 feet closer to the street, and then it could go in that, kind of fit in that curve,
But then you
It's
gotta worry,
close to the well, too.
then it's close to
Yeah.
the well.
and the pond, and you gotta worry about street plowing too.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think you should move it closer to.
That
the
edge of
well
pavement's
for
right on the line too. There.
Taking in consideration pavement, especially where it's a point and only 84 feet.
Mm.
No, I mean, if we're concerned about cars getting in and somebody opening the door or something on their car, if we let them go right against the other property line, those people might have a hard time opening their car doors.
Well, they'll have 6 feet on that other property line, but with ours, we're like 3 feet, so we're tight.
So you'll have 6 feet to the septic, but you won't have it to the wall.
No, we'll have
Yeah.
about 6 feet to the wall. We'll have 8 feet to the septic.
These are the
If we leave it at 8, but if you
Yeah.
leave it in the J&R blocks, they're very good. But if you end up, if we give to 5 and it ends up at 5, then take 2 feet, they're only gonna have a couple of feet.
That's true. I'm okay if you want to reduce the variance to 7 feet, or even 7.5. I mean, we can stake it. I always like to have a couple of inches for wiggle room.
How wide are these blocks?
I think they're 21 or 18 inches.
Have you used them before? Well, it's not even 4 feet, so it's not a big.
But I think
No,
they're just
the
a
blocks, I
regular,
mean.
the block, I think they're just regular Keystone blocks.
Yeah,
They're just narrow.
they're like 8 inches tall.
They're standard.
Yeah, they're not big.
Oh, the little
Tell
ones.
They're the little ones. Yep.
Oh, all right.
That's all they are. There's nothing fancy about it.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just a
they're-
Keystone block.
Yeah,
It's the 80 pound, there's a little groove on the hook.
exactly. Yeah, they got the
Alright.
pins that go right in them.
Yep.
Yep. And they're
Awesome.
hollow for stone in between,
And you
so
fill
you
each
can
one
lock
as you
them.
go up.
Yep.
But yeah,
Does anyone else here speak the homeowner representatives want to speak?
I have a question. My name is Hannah Clayton. I'm at 135 Staple Shore Road. The tree in question in the backyard is old. And I don't think I would categorize it as huge, but it's probably half dead already. So I don't know if it's half dead above. I don't know if it's half dead below, but it breaks my heart to say, because I grew up with that tree, but it's not a good tree.
Right, so I think we're all agreed the tree's gotta go. It's
Oh,
just-
yeah.
I think we're good with the tree, and I think that's settled, I think. It's just,
You just argued with
can
the
we,
snow.
can we squeeze this anymore to give them a little bit more space then? I don't know. I don't know if it's possible.
Well, I'd change it from 5 to 7.5 at the minimum, but it's not gonna help the root problem, but at least
Yeah, I
we
don't
make
think-
sure we're not getting any closer.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. That'll still work in,
So
Yeah.
give you a little bit more room on that side?
7.5 would be good.
Okay.
And then we okay with,
So that would actually be,
one of the variances? Well,
that's number
The-
2, I
so it'd
believe.
actually be 9.5 feet
Yes.
instead of 10, right?
No.
No, he asked for 5 and now you're gonna give him 7.5.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the 8 on the
Right.
plan, which is the 8 to the field, and there's the 5 to the
No,
wall.
on the variance number 2, it says from 10 to 5. We're gonna change it from 10 to 7.5 to give them an extra 2.5 feet
So
over there.
So we
if
know
it was
it's
the
not
8,
to be
would've been
close to
that.
his property.
Exactly. Yep.
I know, we
Yeah,
got
this
it, we got it.
will, that way we can make sure that it's at least 7.5 feet, and if it's not, then they gotta move it.
And now even on the stump, I mean, I don't even think we can even stipulate it has to be crowned or anything. I don't think that's an offer of you. It's, I don't know how somebody's gonna pull it and not damage.
He could
Oh,
go,
I
It's on
have
the-
no idea.
on-
Somebody,
they could go there right now and cut the tree down. There's nothing we could do about it.
Right.
He could go home with a chainsaw and cut the tree down right now. We have no jurisdiction on a tree.
Yeah.
So we can't.
I think our big thing is just making sure the roots are gone.
Well, under the
Which they're already
septic
talking
system.
about.
under the septic.
Yeah.
So I think we've addressed everybody. You good with that?
Yes.
You guys got anything else?
You guys ready to run?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve the 17
17.
variances requested.
Is it tied to the record, right?
Changing number 2 from 10 feet, where it says 10 feet to 5 feet. We're gonna go from 10 feet to 7.5 feet. And we're gonna ask that the pipe that crosses Staple Shore Road be run straight and as narrow of a trench as possible, and then it can start 45, and once it goes back on the other property.
Sleeve.
And,
Oh, and to sleeve the water pipe, right, on that one,
Just leave the sewer pipe near the well.
Sewer pipe near the well.
near the well.
And it's 147 Staple Shore Road.
Yep, that's what I said, didn't I? 147 Staple Shore. I'm getting old.
Second?
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
Can I have Will get in touch with you tomorrow?
Yeah.
You're in the office?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is betterment loan approval for 35 County Street.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Any comment on this, Ed?
no, all the paperwork's in order. So it just requires your approval.
You guys got anything?
And it's all set with it? It's good to sign? I'm good.
No, I just, every once in a while, I like people to know that we're just not giving this money out, that betterment money is available. It's a loan, money that the state gives us and allows us to lend out to people who may not otherwise be able to get a loan, or the money's to fix their septic system. It's a super lien. We get paid back if the house ever sells before anybody. We've never lost a penny of this money in all the years we've been doing this. It's just something we're available to do with the help of the state to help people upgrade their septic systems when they might not have any other way to do so. So it goes right on the tax bills, we always get it back. So when people watch these sometimes and they think we're giving away this money, these betterments are not a grant, a gift, these are 100% a loan that we always get paid back first. With that being said, I will make a motion, we approve the betterment loan for 35 County Street in the amount of $24,350.
Second?
Any more discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
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 Do you get the signed one?
I don't have the signed one. It's in the folder, so I don't sign that one.
Next on the agenda is approved meeting minutes for July 6th, 2022. Is typed.
I'm all set with them.
I'm good too.
Bob?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as typed from July 6th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next discussion was continued discussion or open, potentially the continued discussion for 43 Main Street. If you just, Ed brought it up and I thought it was a good idea just to keep this and the next one on going forward, just in case something came up that we would want to discuss and maybe act on. We have it on the agenda. I don't know if you guys have anything new about that, the hospital property.
Okay, I've heard nothing new from the last meeting.
As far as I know, that they were still in their appeals period and, so it's still an ongoing legal
Yeah.
litigation until they tell us different.
All right.
And Ed, did you have?
Yeah, I have no new news.
Or
Like I said, we
DP.
just put it on there in case something came up at the last minute, we would be able to discuss it. That's all.
I believe DEP said they were gonna get back to us when
Yeah,
they
we haven't
had
heard
their
anything.
update.
New from
No, I
them?
haven't heard. They said, once they knew they would contact us, but I have not heard from them.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm good with that one.
All right, next on the agenda is a discussion regarding proposed open space residential development. Like I said, the last one, just felt we'd keep this on going forward just in case. You guys got anything new?
No, I think they're working on it, so.
Yeah, I have nothing new on it. I haven't heard.
Okay.
Yeah, we were told that they would present something to us. Nothing has been presented to me yet, so when it does, I will notify you.
Okay. And next on the agenda is discuss recent Board of Health agent pending items.
There are no pending business.
All right. Next on the agenda will be the COVID-19 update.
Okay, yeah, I will give the COVID-19 update, but I'd also like to give an update on West Nile and Tripoli as well.
Okay.
So for Tripoli, it's been very good news. There's still they have no human cases, no cases of mammals of any Tripoli so far. That's very good news. They are getting a lot of samples positive from West Nile mosquitoes. So there have been no human cases. I think there have been a couple in other mammals, but there are no human cases of West Nile yet. But given the number they're finding in mosquitoes, they kind of expect some soon. It's getting to that point. But like I said, the Tripoli is looking really good. So that's it on those two. Oh, and Lyme disease is still getting a fair amount of cases of Lyme disease, even at this time of year as well. So for the COVID update, the cases are, for Lakeville anyways, there's been a slight decrease in the number of cases. It's difficult to determine that simply because not everyone's testing. So many people are testing at home, not testing in labs as much anymore. But it does either feel like it's either leveling off or dropping somewhat overall, which is good news. The latest update on the CDC, if you're not aware, the CDC came out with that you no longer have to quarantine if you are in contact with someone who is positive. In the past, they recommended quarantines, and then testing, to get out of that quarantine. They're saying, we're at a point now where, although there's still a lot of cases and, hospitalizations can increase during these, the number of deaths are not increasing at the rate they did in the past because we have so many more tools. So they feel that loosening the restriction of the quarantine allows more people to go about their work. They can do their work. They do recommend that if you were in contact with someone, you wear a mask for 10 days, but you are allowed to go to work even if you were in contact with someone. Those are the new regulation. The other one change to their recommendations was they used to recommend that you take, if you're taking at-home tests, that you take it 2 days in a row. They're now recommending you take it 3 days in a row. They're finding that even if you're taking it 2 days in a row, some of those are still getting missed. So, like I said, so if you were quarantining and you wanted to get out, you should, even if you didn't have the symptoms, you should take them 3 days in a row to make sure that you're not, positive.
And didn't they get rid of some of the distancing too? The kids at school don't have to be 6 feet apart anymore?
heard that.
Correct, yeah, and that's one of, and I think a lot of this is coming just before the school year, so that when school starts, it'll be pretty close to a normal school year, which is something really.
And they got rid of all the distancing, correct? There's no,
Yeah, I mean, there's,
6 feet they got rid of, there's no more.
yeah, and there should be no real masking, like I said, unless you're in contact, and they'll say, you should recommend that student mask, but in general, they're
Yeah,
not.
I think it's the mask for 10 days and test on day 5, right?
Correct, but you test for 3 days, day 5,
So I
day
think,
6,
and I think if you get a PCR on day 5 and you test negative, I think the mask should go. So realistically, you're only wearing the mask for 5 days, right? If you were to do a PCR test as opposed to an at-home.
For quarantine or isolation?
Close contact?
Close contact. I'm saying if you're close contact, you're supposed to wear a 10-day mask, but you test on day 5. If you do a
Right.
PCR test, I think you would only, if you test negative, you wouldn't have to wear the mask anymore. I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that,
So
but yeah.
you should be even less on that stuff, I think, the way it's going.
But yeah, so they, like I said, I'm sure there will be increasing cases once this starts, but like I said, the main thing where most people are concerned about is the deaths, and the deaths are not going up. Now, the reason the deaths aren't going up is we have so many more tools. So more people are getting vaccinated. Hopefully there'll be, in this fall, there'll be a booster shot that's specific to Omicron. And the big thing that's really lowering the death toll is the medicines that are out there. Now, these medicines are great, but there's the thing that's important about them, you need to take them within the first 5 days of you getting sick. So anyone, they're not for everyone, but for those people at high risk, as soon as you find out you're positive, and which is why you should be testing, as soon as you get symptoms, test, and if you're positive, call your doctor right away. And then if he says to go on one of these drugs like Paxlovid or something like that, take him as soon as you can. The sooner you take them, the better they are. What the deaths that we are having, it seems that the people are saying, oh, my symptoms aren't too bad, I'm okay. And then they progress, and then after day 7, they get very more serious, and then they want to take the drugs then. But on day 7, they're really not going to have much effect. And that's the crucial thing right there is, call your doctor if you're at high risk and get on these medicines within 5 days. They're really, they've saved a lot of lives and they've kept a lot of people out of the hospital. They really work. And that's the biggest thing that's brought down that death toll.
Okay. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Good night.